there, it's Kevin with Roguedeckbuilder.com here with a brew from M15. I am back from vacation and I am going to go down my top 10 list and create decks with all the cards from the top 10 list and then actually even explore some other cards in M15. So I'm going to be brewing a lot with the M15 cards as long as they remain in, like the Return to Ravnica and the M14 remains in standard. We'll be using those cards, but a lot of these decks will still be safe post-rotation. This is one of them I think will be safe, as we don't get rid of any cards that are too... there are a few cards in here that I will miss, because what this card is, this is the Generator Servant deck, and after testing this, basically the best card with Generator Servant is going to be the Colonial Hydra. A lot of times you can go second turn Generator Servant, third turn Colonial Hydra, swing for 8, and your opponent has to have an answer to it or they're dead the next turn. And a lot of times you get in there for that initial 8 damage. So another card that I like with this little combo is the Master of Cruelties, but after testing it, he really is very underwhelming compared to like the Colonial Hydra or the Underworld Cerberus. So it's just a one of, and there's a little trick in here with Court of Calling to actually go grab the Master of Cruelties. Like you can court, again, you have to have an insane amount of mana, but still you can go end of turn, say you have the one of Zerta Druid, you can go end of turn Court of Calling for the Master of Cruelties, swing in, and then tap the Zerta Druid, activate the 1 damage, and then you win. So I've actually pulled that off a couple times already. And again, this deck is anything but refined. This is just an initial list. The mana base is still up in the air. The reason why I'm not using any of the enemy pain lands is I don't have any at the moment, and I'm too lazy to actually buy them. So you can have... The good news right now about Standard is you can be as greedy as you want, and you can use... It's between the pain lands and the shock lands. I mean, I still think the shock lands are a little bit better, but you don't lose out that much by using the pain lands. And then in this deck, I do want some scry, so I am using 6 scry lands in the deck, as we do want to filter through our deck. So that is my reasoning from not using any of the pain lands. I do like just basic force because burn decks are everywhere, so I want a way that I can actually put in a basic force without either pinging myself or hurting myself. That's why I decided against Mana Confluence, because I don't really need Mana Confluence too much, and it was doing too much damage to me against like the Goblin Rabble Master decks and the burn decks. I am using one of Urborg Tomb Yawgmoth, as it can turn all of my lands into producing black, and we do have a few black sources in our deck that we do need to cast. Of course, the Underworld Cerberus, the Shadowborn Demon, which is a one of, as you can Court of Calling it. I have a couple more in the sideboard because I really think this card is very good in Standard at the moment. And then like Dreadbores and one of Rakdos Return, because again, we can generate a pretty good amount of mana. And so, yeah, that's just the deck, is you're going to try to do something degenerate on turn 3 or turn 4. That's why the sweet spot is 5, because you absolutely want to see either a Generator Servant or a Satyr Hedonist in the deck, as then you can have a turn 3 Colonial Hydra or Underworld Cerberus. The cool thing about Underworld Cerberus is both of these cards, the Hedonist and the Generator Servant, if they kill your Cerberus, you're going to be getting those back, so at least you'll get some sort of value out of the Underworld Cerberus. I also have a one of Xenagos and a one of Ogre Battle Driver. Xenagos just makes like even Caratids and Generator Servants pretty useful, as they can at least tack in for 4. And then Ogre Battle Driver, this is a card I'm testing. I haven't actually seen this yet, so I don't know how well it's actually going to play out, but it's going to be very easy to cast into. Again, you could still do like a turn 2 or turn 3 Ogre Battle Driver, which I'm okay with, as then with Saccharine and Generator Servant. But really, this is just like usually a turn 3 off a Sylvan Keratin, turn 4, hopefully just naturally without a Generator Servant or Hedonist, you can cast into a Colonial Hydra or an Underworld Cerberus, and swinging in for 8 damage or respectively swinging for 10 damage on that turn 4 isn't too shabby whatsoever. Of course, Rakdos Return is very good against certain decks right now, as it can be a blowout. Again, you can go a turn 2 Generator Servant and then actually sacrifice and use Rakdos Return for 3, and that's not too shabby, but you are using 2 cards for 3 cards and 3 damage. But again, certain decks, this is just a really, really good recovery card late game, like a UI Control. If they tap out for like an Elspeth, sometimes you can actually Rakdos Return them and kill their Elspeth. Solar Chandelar, every time I've got it out, I've absolutely loved it. It can just take the game by itself. This card is very, very underrated. Every time, again, I've played this card quite a bit. I've actually had this in limited, and it's probably in my opinion, the best limited card you can ask for in Standard or in M15. And it's not too shabby and constructed either, as I've had this guy out and it's just controlled the board after I've got it out. Of course, it probably wants to be in a deck that uses more ramp and more lands. We're only using 23 lands, which, again, we have the 4 mana producers, 5 mana producers, Zertod Druid, and these Generated Servants and Hedonists. I think that we're going to be hitting our land drops most of the time. And again, this is all about blitzing. It's all about, this is an aggro deck trying to get out a degenerate 5-drop. So that's kind of the low mana count, is you don't want too many lands. It's not too hard to get to 5. Again, I'm going to mess around with this. Maybe we need to go up in a few of the mana ramps. I've thought about Elvish Mystic a lot, but I just don't like Elvish Mystic. And as it doesn't, you might as well have another 2-drop that can stick around. So Sylvan Carotid is the card of choice. Now, Burning Tremissary, a lot of people might look at this and say, why Burning Tremissary? Well, it's got such good synergy with Court of Calling. It's something you can actually tap for Court of Calling. And this card actually becomes like our 5th and 6th Underworld Cerberus or Colonial Hydra, or a way to get Shadowborn Demon, or the Ogre Battle Driver, or even the Soul, or the one of Master of Cruelties. And then when we have our sideboard, it's also a way to get either more Shadowborn Demons or Reclamation Sages. Again, this is anything but complete. I don't know how much removal we're going to put in the main board, but we have a few more in the sideboard in the form of another Dreadbore and 2 more Shadowborn Demons. Domri is just a decent card in any sort of deck that uses 30 creatures. Certain decks that you'll want to take out Rakdos Return and bring in Domri, or even take out even Dreadbores and bring in Domri. And Life Legacy is really a card that I'm testing. I'm thinking that I wish this was instant speed, but if you sacrifice Underworld Cerberus, I think that's pretty decent, getting 6 cards. And unfortunately, I wish this gave life as well, but I guess that'd be too greedy. I think this card just needs either instant speed or one other positive thing out of it to actually make it playable. A lot of times I've had to use it actually just to generate, like off of Burning Tremissary, just generate 2 cards, which isn't too shabby. Again, it lets you go through your deck. And I might, this card might actually see some play in like an Immortal Servitude deck. I'm definitely flirting around with Life's Legacy as a way to sacrifice like Spike Jesters or something to gain 3 cards, and then instead of having sort of dredged way to get cards in the graveyard, it's actually through like Life's Legacy and other card draw effects to then Immortal Servitude. But so far it hasn't been working out. That's definitely a deck that I want to give one last go. Immortal Servitude is one of my favorite cards in Standard at the moment. It can be very sad when it rotates because I think it has a lot of fun synergies in the format. So anyway, we're going to play some games here. Hopefully everything goes well. Again, I apologize for the new client. I'm not the most familiar with the new client, but we'll hopefully have no hiccups here. This has been Kevin with Roguedeckbuilder.com. Thanks for watching.